Hey guys, Keys here, back with another Bitcoin video. So Bitcoin has broken down from the parallel channel and actually broke below 40K, and we actually came all the way down to around 38.5. And once we hit 38.5, we actually have gotten a pretty nice bounce, and we're kind of in somewhat of an uptrend right now. But you can actually see the level that we bounced off of was the area that Bitcoin just could not break above in November. We just couldn't break above this area, but now that we're coming from above and we're using as support, it's been pretty decent support so far. I don't really know how long it's gonna last. In my opinion, it's not gonna last. I do think we're gonna go lower. I don't think we're gonna go much lower than 38.5, but I do think we'll go lower. And I do think that now we broke down from this parallel channel that we were in for about 6 weeks. I think that it does prove that Bitcoin is in a downtrend, and you can actually see that we're already putting in characteristics of a downtrend, right? Like we have this high, putting a low, putting a high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So far, lower high. I don't know if this is gonna hold. Bitcoin kind of looks like it might actually break into it again, but if we get rejected here, then come down, put in a lower low. That's just continuing the downtrend, right? So I do think we're in a downtrend, and I do think Bitcoin's gonna go lower than 38.5. But honestly, guys, like I'm actually a little surprised at Bitcoin recently, so I'm gonna flip to the 1 hourly to show you guys how Bitcoin's been trading the past few hours. Ever since we hit 38K, we're kind of in an uptrend. Um, we're definitely finding really solid resistance at around 40K. We actually wicked to 40.5, but we sold off pretty quickly, and then we just cannot get above this 40.1 area, which makes a little bit of sense because, right, this was just the bottom of the parallel channel that we held for so long. So now that we're below it, it's going to act as resistance. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom. Even though I do think we're going to go lower, I think it's only really temporary. You got to realize, guys, like the Bitcoin halving is this line. Let's actually check the date because it keeps on changing. Let's see what it is right now. So April 22nd. So it's actually flips the daily. I can make this correct. Oh, we're on April 22nd. So it's April 22nd. So this is the day that Bitcoin halves. And typically what happens is that Bitcoin actually gets a dump like a couple months before the Bitcoin halving. Bitcoin actually does dump. And we're actually doing that right now. So this is typical behavior. Now the question that everyone is wondering is how low is Bitcoin going to go? And I wish I could tell you the exact number, but no one actually knows. So all we can really do is just use what we have, and based off of history and based off these indicators. So I think that something that we really need to pay attention to is the bull market support band. And the bull market support band is the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA. So they're just moving averages of the past 20 days and the past 21 days of Bitcoin's price. And the reason why the bull market support band is so important is because, let's flip to the weekly to get a little bit of a better picture, is that Bitcoin has been holding, especially when we're in an uptrend, Bitcoin holds the bull market support band really well. You can see up here, held it, went up higher. Down, held it, went up higher. In this case, when we broke it here, this is why I was thinking around this time, like when we broke this and we came back to retest it and we got rejected this week right here, I did think Bitcoin was going to come down a little bit lower to like 22, 23. But then what happened, guys? Like the ETF news and everything started coming out, and then we got a huge pump and Bitcoin just reversed. So we did actually briefly go below it this year, but the only time we were below it in 2023 were like these couple weeks. And other than that, like every other week we've been above it. So we actually haven't even tested it in kind of a while either. The last time we tested it, it's been about 98 days since we tested it. And I don't see any reason that Bitcoin cannot just come back down and test it again. It is slowly climbing higher, so the longer it takes us to actually hit it, the higher it's going to be. So what we could do is kind of maybe just like slowly go down or slowly go sideways, and the bull market support band would actually catch up to us. But I don't really think Bitcoin's actually just going to go sideways right now for a few reasons. One being that, like I said, typically before the halving, so let's just like quickly go over all these purple lines are the halving dates. you can see before the halving right here, massive dump. I mean, this was COVID-19. The thing is, like, when you look at charts, I don't really think that you should take in the reasons for things when you look at charts. Like, you could say this was because of COVID, but it's still in the charts. In my opinion, it's still valid. So 63% dump. 63. Right before the halving, too. Like, how long was this before the halving? We bottomed out about 9 weeks before. 63 days before the halving is when we bottomed out in 2020. The halving before, you can see we dumped. This candle from here to here was about a almost 30% dump. That's still really big, and this was right before the halving. This was about 2 weeks before the halving. And what's interesting about this year in 2016 is that after the halving, we actually kept dumping, which isn't something that Bitcoin typically does. I think it only did this in 2016. So we ended up going 40% from the high right before the halving. But the thing is, guys, after the dump was over, look what happened with Bitcoin, right? I mean, Bitcoin went on a huge bull market or bull run. So it wasn't like the end of the world. And what's also interesting, guys, is that we dumped, but we just held the bull market support band. I mean, we did wick slightly below it here, this one wick, but it was just a wick, and the bull market support band held it perfectly, and we ended up going up. So another reason why I think the bull market support band is really important. And you can actually see the entire bull market move was consisted of Bitcoin just testing the bull market support band over and over again. So definitely important to keep an eye on the bull market support band. And then back in 2012, Bitcoin got a dump for about 50%, 51%. And let me actually, these candles look so tiny, but they're actually massive. And this is in 2012, guys. This was when Bitcoin was at $15, peaked at $15, and then dumped down to $7. And that was a 50% move, but even a little bit later, we got another 25% move down right before the halving. And this one was about 105 days out, and then the second one, which was a bit smaller, was about 56 days out. So around 60 days, because we had 56 on this one, then we had around 63, I think, in 2016, and then this one here was about, what was this one? 91. So anywhere between like 60 and 90 days, we can find a bottom. I think we're actually 90 days out right now, which is really interesting. So, I guess you can maybe make the statement or the claim that Bitcoin is going to just bottom right around 38.6. Maybe we've already bottomed. In my opinion, we haven't, but maybe we have. When you look at it on the weekly charts, like, it still doesn't look too bad. I mean, on the weekly candles, we're actually still holding this this parallel channel. So it's actually going to be really interesting. There's actually 3 days left of this week. So actually about 4 days, 3 days and 23 hours. So about 4 days left of this week. I don't know where we're going to end up, but I do think Bitcoin will test this bull market support band. Currently sitting at 37.2 to 36.2. So let's just say 36 to 37K. I think we're probably going to come down to it. And that's honestly not even much lower than where we are now. From where we are right now, if we came down to it, it's around 7 to 10%. That's an okay, like, I guess that is kind of sizable. And if we did, get to it from the top to bottom, it would be around 26%. So, those numbers actually seem pretty realistic, and actually, it could happen. I don't know if it will, but those numbers are not outrageous, and I do think there's a good chance that it does happen. And the thing is, guys, like, I think we're actually getting to a point where the next, big move down, which I think we're currently in right now, I think that could be the bottom. Like, that could be the, like, load it up, wherever it is, it's like load up on Bitcoin, like the halving is coming up, like we're going to go into potential like bull market mode, because after this halving point, like this is the line where after we pass this line, like things typically are really good for Bitcoin. We did see in 2012 that it actually wasn't right after. It took a couple weeks. So I think right now it's really just wait, see what happens with Bitcoin. I'm expecting downward movement, but I don't know for sure if we're going to continue going down. But the thing is that we also got to realize, guys, that like the economy is also being kind of weird right now. I want to bring this up to you guys again because the last time we talked about this, which was the interest rate cuts, the market was predicting March 20th. This was like at like a 70 or 80% chance of happening. And I said this last time, these numbers change. They do tend to change, especially, I mean, the closer you get to it, the more likely it's not going to change. Like this one, in the next meeting is actually next week. 97% chance that we're going to stay unchanged, right? The interest rates are not going to change next week. March 20th, now it's actually saying the most probable is that we stay. Interest rates stay the same March 20th, which means that the markets are now predicting the first interest rate cuts are coming in May. And that's actually after the Bitcoin halving now. So if the S&P does tank, because also, guys, the S&P did put in a new high, and we spoke about this last time, saying like we could put in a higher high and then get the huge crash when interest rates come down. And not only that, but like it kind of looks like Bitcoin, where Bitcoin put in like a slightly higher high and then got a huge bear market. So I don't know if the S&P is going to follow that, but that's something that I'm tracking, and so far it's playing out pretty well. I actually need to move this pink line to April or to May 1st now because unfortunately the economy just doesn't want to tank yet. So we're going to have to wait that out a little bit. But anyways, guys, that's really it. All I wanted to say, just an update on Bitcoin. We did break below 40K, but we're currently seeing at 40.1. I'm personally expecting Bitcoin to come a little bit lower eventually. I don't know if it's going to happen right now. Bitcoin's just kind of acting weird. And when I say kind of acting weird, it kind of feels like Bitcoin's actually going to push up higher, which goes against what a lot of people would expect. I think a lot of people kind of are expecting Bitcoin to just go down a little bit more because there's just so much selling pressure. But Bitcoin is being resilient as ever, and this is definitely a good sign because like when it's finally time to go, like Bitcoin's probably just gonna skyrocket. But for now, I'd be a little worried right now. We are coming at this from below. Like the weekly chart looks pretty solid, right? Because like it doesn't really look like we've broken down from it that much. But when you do take a closer look, this is the 4-hour candles. So you go to the 1 hour, you can kind of see like Bitcoin has been struggling to get above it, but we are like constantly trying to get above it, right? And we actually did slightly poke above it. So I actually think there is a chance Bitcoin does come into this range again. But I think ultimately Bitcoin will slide down a little bit more. And when the bottom is, wherever that is, currently targeting, like I said, the bull market support band, then that might be like the time to take a long, I think. I think taking a long, if we're at the bull market support band, is not a bad play. We'll just have to see if Bitcoin gets down to it. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next video.